Welcome to Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things, the podcast show. I am your host, Carrie Roberts. And today I have a panel. We are doing another series in our Connected Conversations. But this one's a little extra special because I have three women with me today that are, in a sense, acting like my co-hosts on a monthly basis, kind of like The View, but talking about real issues, real things that we go through every single day. And so I'm so excited to share this space with them each month. And our topic today is going to be about talking about thriving after divorce. But before we get into that, I want to introduce you to my co-hosts for today. I have Lee, Patty, and Sonja. Lee, why don't you introduce yourself? Say hello. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, hello. First of all, I feel like I'm a mom to two beautiful adult girls. I still call them kids, but they're adults. I also love to surf and dance and newly found artist. So got some different hobbies going on just recently.
I love it. And you were just in Hawaii, so we welcome you back.
Thanks.
And Patty, go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Patty, and I am in week 3 of my retirement. Woo!
Woo!
And week 2 of my third granddaughter from my two wonderful sons. And I met all these lovely ladies through dance, which is a real fun and passion for me.
Yes, I love it. And Sonja, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sonja. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. Living out here 8 years. I know all these lovely ladies through ballroom dance, which I love, one of my passions. I also like to sing. I love to cook, and I love DIY projects around the house.
So exciting. And as they all mentioned, we all live in New Jersey and we all actually met through dance and we all are divorced and I say thriving afterwards. So I want to get into our topic and we've all kind of been through it at different stages of our life. So I think we have different thoughts around it as well. If you're watching or listening live, you can definitely comment or ask questions if you'd like. And so I want to kind of start with ladies, before when you were younger, you were dating, maybe high school, maybe college, before you got into getting married and then eventually divorced, what was your thought on marriage and divorce? Had you experienced or knew anyone that had been through a divorce? And Patty, I'm going to start with you on that one.
I think, and again, given my time of growing up and all that, I think it was kind of the more traditional of the expectation, you would date, you would get married, you would have children and, all of that. I really didn't know growing up that, families or parents or whatever that were divorced. I did see families though, where the relationship was not the best. So to me, I think I just always felt like, yep, that's the path I was going to take, and which I did. Twice.
Yeah. Twice. Yeah. So again, you have even more experience and different experience than some of us. Sonja, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was married twice. First time very young and, very idealistic. The whole idea of marriage, and like Patty said, get date, get married, big wedding, the white dress, have children, buy a house, but wasn't as romantic as I thought it was. But for some people it is, and it lasts a lifetime, and didn't for me twice.
Yeah,
like Patty. But
yeah, I think it's interesting to again kind of hear like how we kind of experienced it early on. Lee, what was your kind of experience with marriage and divorce before you got into it? What have you seen maybe around your friends or your family?
Again, I think back in the day, I didn't really know that many that were divorced, but actually my best friend, her parents did get divorced and they were actually still good friends. So that was kind of encouraging. But I think from what I, wanted with my life, I thought, get married, I really wanted kids. So that was kind of a big reason that the clock was ticking and it was time to get married, because I wanted kids. And yeah, you think it's going to last forever. I mean, you don't go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to, eventually get divorced, but, things happen and things change. So, that's kind of the way it was for me, but I don't regret any of it.
Yeah, I think yeah, for me, like my parents are in a happy marriage. They've been together for a really long time. All of my friends growing up were had parents together. So like I like had heard about divorce, but I like never really knew anyone that had been through it. And then I was one of the first of my friends to get married. And then when I did get divorced, I was one of the only people I knew that was divorced. So it was very new and kind of a new area to me because, like I said, I just had never experienced it. I never thought about it. To me, marriage was very much about like, you know, you make this oath, you make this commitment through better or worse, death do us part. Like, okay, like I'm committed if that's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, like I said, to kind of hear where we kind of all came from. And I don't want this to be something where we're kind of bashing or putting anyone down because it's always two people and everybody has a different experience. But when you kind of had that moment where you and your spouse were like, okay, this is not a good fit anymore, whether it was an abusive thing or just not the right fit anymore, and you decide, okay, we're going to end this. What was kind of maybe the hardest thing for you to deal with mentally or emotionally, kind of those months after as you were going through this? And Sonja, I'm going to start with you on this one first.
After the divorce?
Yeah, like after as you were kind of going through the divorce, maybe those first few months, was there things that you noticed mentally or emotionally that
Y-
you were
You
like, I'm
know, there's
struggling with?
always, yeah, there's always that fear of, being alone and am I going to be able to, how am I going to be able to cope? I know, myself, I was in financial debt and I had to fix that. I had to repair my credit, so there was that to deal with. And then and then there was the whole worry about dating after divorce, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that topic later.
But those were my fears. The first time I divorced, my son was very young, so I was worried about, raising him on my own. Would I ever meet someone to be a good stepfather to him? Those were definitely
Yeah, no, I think
that
that's
stressed me out quite a bit after the divorce.
yeah, I don't have children, so I have not experienced what the three of you have, and so that makes sense that that would be kind of a common thing. Lee, what about yourself? Was there things that you kind of felt mentally and emotionally that were you realized were really challenging for you, kind of those few months after?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it was, that I was breaking up the family, and I was hurting everyone. But it was kind of at the sacrifice of myself. And I think, that's why I stayed in it so long. And again, not that it was bad. We were friends, but it really wasn't, fulfilling, like to have, a relationship where it wasn't really a marriage. It was kind of just going through the motions. But it took me a long time to come to terms with, I deserve to be happy too. And I'm not, purposely hurting anybody, so that was a hard thing, to actually sit down and tell the kids and all that. And again, they were already adults. So it was really challenging that way. And then I think for the future part for me was, again, you kind of have this, I was married a long time, over 25 years. So it's kind of like I say it was like having an anchor. It wasn't a ball and chain, but it was, you always had somebody, and now you weren't going to have that person. So, whether we were together all the time or not, you still kind of had somebody that was there as, you were tied together. So that was a big kind of step for me. It was like, no, I think I can do this, but it was scary. It was.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. Patty, I know you said before we got on, you're like, it was so long ago. But do you remember kind of, how those first few months after, just emotionally and mentally, kind of how you were feeling? Do you resonate with the things that Sonja or Lee are saying, or did you have different feelings?
No, I agree. And for me, it was quite some time ago. The second one was 27 years ago. So my children, like Sonia, were young. My sons were, 18 months and 4 years. And so, there's a lot of different emotions over the different months. It would change. So, at first it is that, oh, how am I going to do this? And am I doing the right thing? And, what about my children? And what about my family? And what everybody's going to think? And, so you go through, I think, different things at different times. So you get through that. And then it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to afford this? And, how am I going to, manage my job and the family and, my kids. And so it's a kind of a range of emotions of different things. But yeah, but you get through it, I think is which is why it was good to hear everybody else's as reminders of those were some of the things way back when. But
yeah, again, mine was just a little different because I was younger and I also did not have children with this person. For me, it was just, I always felt a sense of guilt for doing anything for myself. And so kind of, getting over that. And I didn't realize it kind of till afterwards, like taking a nap, going for a walk, like exercising, doing stuff for my business. I always was made to feel guilty about it. And so kind of having to deal with that of like, well, should I be doing this? Should I be doing something else? Because like you said, okay, well, I have to make a certain amount of money. And then it's like, again, what are people going to think? Like I'm a good person. And I think kind of all of that and kind of going through that, all these realizations that kind of came up it was definitely challenging. And so I kind of want to go through, initially, we'll go kind of into the future now, but initially, how did you all kind of deal with those things? Like maybe what are 1, 2, or 3 things that you did to kind of help you get out of that mental and emotional state at that time? Because I would assume they're a little different now. But at that time, what were some of the things that you did? Lee, I'll start with you.
I think the big thing that I did was I really relied on a lot of my friends. And I kind of say, I had a call list and my friends even joke about it, you go down the list when you're in that kind of desperate stage, like I need somebody to talk to and just that reassurance and, somebody to just be able to talk openly about things. It's really helpful. And I think that's one of the things that I'm glad that I, kind of nurtured along the way was to have those friends, to be there for them when they needed something. So now is my time, where I did feel guilty because I'm like, oh my God, I'm calling you again. I'm so sorry. And they're like, no, we're here for you. You've been there for us. So I think that's something you really need to lean on, support from other people. And maybe they aren't somebody that you knew from a long time ago. Maybe it's somebody new, like Carrie, we talked a little bit, in the studio, and just that connection and the discussion, it really helps, so I would say really, really reach out to people, because, they can really, really help support you and, help you bounce things off. And because, I think your emotions and your mind's going all over the place and you need somebody to kind of ground you a bit, so that's my biggest thing.
I totally agree with that. I know for myself, my parents were a huge support system. And I felt, again, that sense of guilt there too. I'm like, oh, I'm calling you again.
Yeah.
And my parents like, no, we just feel bad. Like, and I think to Patty and Sonja's remark of like, or even you, I think said too, Lee, like you had this person every day that even if it wasn't going well, you like said something, you talked about your day. And now you're like, well, who do I talk to now? And I think, you're, whether you're calling your parents or friends and, I will say, like you said, it doesn't have to be someone well. Not that you have to tell someone your life story, but sometimes you say something. I found that there were so many more people that had been through divorce than I ever knew before. People that I knew that like kind of kept it a secret or like it was a while ago, like Patty said. And I was like, oh, this actually isn't as uncommon as I thought. And it's also not as bad. And so I think, like you said, I think that element of support is so crucial, but it doesn't have to be family or friends. There are support groups and there are people you can talk to. And I think when people are vulnerable, they open up and they'll open up to you. And I think that's important. Patty, what are your thoughts? What kind of helped you at that time?
I would say the same. You really have to just kind of lean on others and you just find as soon as you reach out, people are more than willing and there for you. I was fortunate to have my family very supportive, and also I made a real effort because as others said, it wasn't really about a bad person. So I really made an effort to keep the relationship both with my ex-husband, but also his family. Because again, my children are their grandchildren. And so, Yeah, and I found my mother-in-law being able to actually talk to her because she had been through a divorce early on. So you just, like you said, it's just, just reaching out, talking to folks, and having everybody kind of help you through.
Yeah, I just want to show as well. Kathy here said, "You all are so courageous to share your emotions. Thank you, Lee. I identify with what you felt." Yeah, I think it's funny when people say courageous. I think I was just talking to someone the other day saying, oh, everybody looks so happy on Instagram, and she's kind of dealing with something personal. And I was like, everyone's human. We have good days, we have bad days, we've been through things. And I think sometimes when we take the time to just get curious and ask questions, we find that, we can help each other and we connect a lot more, which is similar to kind of, how the four of us have had conversations. Sonja, so at that time, how were you kind of dealing with things? Was it friends and family, or did you have other ways that you found support?
Well, after my first marriage, that was a very unhappy time in my life. It was an abusive relationship. And so when that marriage was over, my friends and my family were so supportive, and they helped me through it because I was, an emotional mess. And I started to do things for myself, things that I never found the time to do or put off. I started doing little things for myself, like little things like going for manicures, going for pedicures, going for facials, massages, walks, just little things for myself. But yeah, I leaned on my family and friends a lot.
Now, did any of you do therapy at all?
I did.
I did too.
Yeah.
Patty and Sonja, you did not?
No, I should
No.
have.
I'm curious though, before I go into you, Lee, Patty and Sonja, did you not, because at that time, like that wasn't something people did, or like you were just not interested or didn't know about it? Patty, I'll have you answer first.
I think it's thinking back again.
Yeah.
Right. No, I will say down the road, because I met this woman who local was a psychologist. And so I did have sometimes when I went to talk to her, but that was later on, actually after the second one. So no in the first, yes, a little bit in the second.
Sonja, what about yourself?
I didn't, but I think, I was young, and I think I was embarrassed, because of my circumstances, and I want to air it. And I kind of leaned on my friends as therapists. They were my therapists. But thinking back now as a more mature person, I think I probably should have. I think it probably would have helped after my first marriage.
Yeah, I want to say I had a therapist. She was actually a psychologist, and I loved her. But I actually didn't use her till about a couple years later. And it was because, as you said, you were leaning on friends and family, but I just kept feeling like something is still there. Like something needs to be worked through, and I need professional help to do that. And I want to just say that there's nothing wrong with going to therapy for whatever you need. And it could be for a one-time thing, a short-time thing. She was amazing. And I do encourage people to reach out to someone that resonates with you. It's kind of like finding a hairdresser, right? Like you have to find someone that you like. This person, she was close by. She had a similar name to me, which is weird. She was a psychologist. She had been through this herself. She also worked specifically with women in abusive relationships. She had done all these things. And I was like, that's who I want. And it was so, great because she gave a lot of language to what I was feeling and then allowed me to kind of create some new neural pathways, as I like to say, in my brain to say, like this is what it means, redefining words. And it was so helpful and made such a difference for me. So I'm incredibly grateful for her. Lee, what was your kind of experience?
Well, I first started going to a therapist because it wasn't just the divorce. I had a couple of things happen at the same time. I had two friends who passed away, and one I was really close with very suddenly. And I found that I really couldn't deal with everything at the same time. So I reached out to a therapist, and it's interesting that you say you really have to find the right therapist. I went to 3 sessions with her, and I would say she helped some, but I also feel that we weren't a great fit because I felt a little judged And so I stopped after the third session, and eventually I did decide that I still wanted to talk to somebody. So I went back a couple months later and found the most wonderful woman. And it really, really made the difference. So, and I have heard stories from other friends that have had great therapists and some that not so great. So make sure you find somebody that is the right fit for you. And also, they have different methods. So the one that I have now really is very, very positive. And as you said, helps me change the way I think about things. Like I went away on vacation last year by myself, and I was so worried about it and nervous. And she said, just think about it. Now you can do what you want. You don't have to come home and make dinner. Maybe you decide to go out. Maybe you don't. Maybe you watch a show. It's all up to you now. And it just changed everything for me. I'm like, oh my God, you're so right. Like I can take a shower now and I don't want to eat now, so it really makes a difference finding the right person, I think.
It does. So if you are listening or watching and you're like, oh, it's just not working. Again, it's like finding a hairdresser, a doctor. Like, you have to do the research. And like, I really wanted a psychologist. So you have to find like what's important to you and kind of go through. And Monica just said, I've witnessed personally, women lift women, support is key. Definitely. I 100% agree. I want to talk about also some first, because Sonja kind of talked about this. I remember once I had moved out and I had gotten my own apartment, a couple things. So the first time I hung up a picture by myself, because that was always like the man thing. And I was so proud of myself. And I was like, oh, I did it. I was like, I didn't need anyone's help. Like, it was such a big deal. And then I remember kind of doing something myself for the first time. There was this like beautiful sunflower farm. And I was like, I want to go. It's kind of far away. I was like, do I go by myself? And I had this like internal thing. And I was like, just go, Carrie. Like, this isn't absurd. Like, who cares? And I remember getting there. It was so beautiful. And I'm looking at everyone else, and there's people fighting. There's dogs like peeing everywhere. There's kids crying. And I'm like, huh. How nice is it that I get to be here and enjoy? I can be here as long as I want. I can take pictures. Nobody's bothering me. And kind of the positive sides to having time by yourself. And so those were kind of some of the beginnings for me that were like this excitement. Did any of you have anything like that you can recall?
Yeah, well, I think I just talked about my experience. I actually had dated somebody right after, the divorce, and it didn't end, the way I had hoped. So going away was a big deal, because I said, I'm not afraid of being alone. I'm afraid of being lonely. And there's a big difference. And it really does take a mindset to change that. You can really wallow in, oh my God, I'm alone. I'm going alone. I could have done this. I could have been with somebody. But, I had to get out of that and say, no, this is fine. This is just a new chapter. I have to, learn how to enjoy it and look at the positives, not look at the negatives. And it's really hard, because we all have that narrative that goes on and on and on. But once you do it, like you said, it's like, oh my God, I did it. I want to do it again. Like, wow, I can do this.
Yeah, you feel empowered.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be something big, like, I took a big vacation. There were other little things I did. It was like, oh no, I can do that. I can do that. You don't need somebody to do it. You can do it on your own.
Yes. And I like how you're saying alone versus lonely. I talk about that a lot as well. Alone just means like you're in a room by yourself. But lonely is a feeling. And one of the things I always talk about is I would rather be by myself than feel lonely with someone else. And that's how I felt in my marriage most of the time. That there was a person physically next to me, but I felt alone all the time. I felt like this person didn't care and we didn't have this connection, and that feels terrible. And it is so much better to enjoy yourself than to have that feeling. And I think that's very different. Patty, any comments on that?
Well, I guess again, because my situation, I had my sons were very young, and I had my full-time job, and my job involved traveling. So
you were not alone that often.
I wasn't alone. So there was a lot going on for for a number of years. But I guess what though there was is a sense of feeling, if not going off and doing things by myself, but myself and my two sons, we could go and whatever we felt like doing that afternoon, we did, or it was just, there wasn't stress, there wasn't, you could kind of set your own a little bit, if you will, of pace. And what we had for dinner, it was so it was, I think my quote alone time or whatever came a little later.
You were busy.
Yes. Sonja, what about yourself?
I realized that I could do things by myself, that it was okay to be like Lee said, alone, but not lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my boss was giving a cocktail party, and I had no one to go with, and I really had to go. I had to make an appearance, and I actually went by myself, and I mingled, and I was so proud of myself. Like, hey, I can do this. I actually, I got through this, and it was okay. It was fine. But yeah,
I just want to say too that Sonja during COVID has been a beast at her house. Like, I came to her house and she was like, I painted, I redid this, I redid that, I hung up this, I took a door down. I was like, girl, I was like, so I think, again, for those listening or watching, and if you are going through this right now, it sucks and it's going to suck for a while, but know that it's going to be okay. And I think it's those moments of like growth, like you said, whether it's hanging up a picture or going to an event by yourself or going on vacation or having alone time a little bit later, like having that is really empowering, and it just makes a difference, I think, right? I mean, it's really nice. So I want to talk about kind of now, and what kind of things do you do now to keep yourself mentally and emotionally happy? Which again, I would assume is a little different than it was back then. But what kind of things do you do now? Patty, what do you do?
Well, as I said, just 3 weeks into this is week 3 of retirement. So I am just adjusting, but in a wonderful way, to the idea of having time and the relaxation. And so for me, a big part, as we all said, it is dance. I really enjoyed it. And that is what I started for kind of my time, and something for me. But then again, to my family, is also where I spend a lot of my time. My one son is in Savannah, a little further and harder to get to see, but my other son and daughter-in-law and the new baby live next door. So right now that's helping them out. And, my sister, my friends, it's, I don't know, it's, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it's just stuff you want to do. It's your time. And now, like you said, you're kind of personally in this new stage of life after retirement, which is also exciting. Lee, what about yourself? What kind of things do you do mentally or emotionally now that, you just went to Hawaii, so obviously travel. As we looked at your pictures, we're like, we want to be there too.
Yep. I was waiting for it to open and do it safely. I like to be outside and in nature. I go for a lot of walks up at the beach, just with my tunes in. Just connecting outside, which it does get more difficult in the winter. So there's other things, now I've started, you guys might know, doing art. Mm-hmm. So I really look forward to that. That's kind of my therapy, my quiet time. And then I think really making plans and connecting with ladies like you. So really got to take some time and, make lunch dates or just get together with someone for a walk. Connect with people. I think that's really important, and that helps me emotionally, so yeah. And
I just want to comment on that as well, because I think even if you're married, it's important to keep your friends and have that time for yourself. This isn't just something when you're single or after divorce. This is like in life. It's really important to have those moments for yourself, moments with your friends, and not just focus on one other person or just your family. And I know a lot of people will say, well, that's hard, or I don't have the time. But like you said, even if it's a phone call, I have a good friend of mine. Yeah. She's married. She just had her 3rd kid. She's got young kids, and she's a night nurse. She talks to me on her way in the car to the place, and it's just 20 minutes for us to just connect and for her to have a moment of peace and quiet, away from all the craziness. So even if it's, a little bit of that, I think it definitely helps for our mental and emotional well-being as well. Sonja, What do you do to keep mentally and emotionally well?
I've been spending a lot of time with my family, a lot of time with my grandchildren. They're a lot of fun, and they definitely make me happy. Pre-COVID, I was doing dance, a lot of social dancing, you guys. But I haven't done that since COVID. But I do want to dying to go back to that. I take walks. I do a lot of projects around the house, as you know, Carrie. Little things, I like to crochet, I sew, just anything.
Yeah.
Busy,
Yeah, I think for me, we all, for those watching and listening, we live close to the beach, and I'm a huge beach person. And one of the things that I will say, I always wanted to live at the beach. I've always loved the beach since I was a kid. And when I was married, my significant other did not like it, did not like the beach, was just like annoyed by the whole thing. And but my whole house was decorated beach, and people would come over and they're like, "Whoa, so you like the beach?" Like, okay, like the whole house is beach. And then people were like, I just don't get it. Like, why are you so obsessed with the beach? Like, I don't get it. And when I had kind of moved, I had lived in a different state at the time, and I moved back. And I remember looking for where I wanted to live. I wanted to come back to New Jersey, New York area. And my mom was like, "Why don't you look at the beach?" And I remember being like, "Am I allowed to live there? Like, am I isn't that what, like when you're retired? Like, do I deserve," again, this feeling of guilt kind of coming over.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Oh my God." She's like, "Relax. Like, let's just look. Let's see if you can afford it. Let's go." And she was my tour guide and did great. And I was so lucky. We found an apartment, where I am now. I love it. I'm a mile and a half from the beach. And I literally go there every single day. I go there every day. I walk. It is my time. I take pictures. I read. I relax. My favorite time is actually going by myself, because I can be there as long as I want. And I was like, this is my home. Like, this is for me. And for so many years, having someone say, "Oh, no, that's dumb," or "Why are you doing that?" And grateful for my mom for kind of convincing me, it is such a huge part of my well-being, being able to be close to the water and being able to be outside. And I think now also allowing that guilt to go away and say, it's okay for me to take a walk. It's okay for me to go to the beach. It's okay for me to just be. And I think women, especially, we get kind of stuck in this where we feel like we've got to do something. And it's like, no, it's okay to take a nap. It's okay to relax. It's okay to sleep in, and allowing myself to let go of that guilt and just enjoy that. And I feel just much happier just being. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know. I love it. Like, I like to just, we're so rushed and focused on many things. It's nice to just enjoy the moment, which is what life is about. So I'm curious if you three have any kind of advice when we're talking about kind of thriving, because I told you three, I describe thriving as being emotionally and mentally well. It doesn't mean you own a yacht, although that's nice, but it's really about, do I feel kind of happy with myself and kind of where I'm at? Of course, we always want to improve, and we have up and down days, but kind of overall. So for people that are like, okay, I'm kind of going through this, it sucks. Like, I want to get to a point where I feel okay, I feel good. Do you have any advice for people that are in that spot so that they also can kind of thrive in the months or years to come? Lee, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think really you have to take it one day at a time, and every day find something positive. I think when you look at the whole picture, sometimes it's just so overwhelming and you're like, "Oh my God, how am I ever going to get through this? I'm so sad," whatever it is. Just get through that day and reach out, figure something out that makes you happy that day, however small it is. And then the next day, just keep doing that. And eventually, I think you're going to find the light somewhere. It sounds corny, but, I just always knew that eventually I was going to be in that happy place. And I am now, but last year, God, I wanted 2019 to be over so bad. And then 2020, I'm like, yay. And then COVID hits. But you know what? When life throws you stuff, you just got to find whatever that little thing is that's positive out of that bad situation. So, change that mindset and just keep working on it day by day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Sonja?
Yeah,
Any advice?
like Lee said, when life throws you lemons, you make lemonade. You lean on your friends, you lean on your family, you try to do something for yourself, you
Mhm.
know, whatever that might be. Take up a hobby, like I did, you know, go for walks, go for massages. You know, that's wonderful and such a wonderful stress relief. You know, that all helps so much. For me, it was really the support from my family and friends. I mean, that got me through so much. And that's the
Yeah.
best advice I can do.
Yeah. Patty, any thoughts?
Well,
You're thriving so many years later. So, you know, again, she's like the testament, the long term. So it's you know, it'll be okay, you know. So go ahead, Patty.
well, I know for me, I had to get to a place where um, uh, uh, just because for who I am, you know, to just feel like, okay, I can do this financially from a standpoint of, yeah, I have to cut back and do this, but you know, I can make this work. And I think, and then it's on the emotion side and different, I would just say different stages and phases, it's going to be different. So there was a period of time, again, having two sons, that I really reached out to male friends, you know, that were raising two sons, and it was like that, you know, such a great support system. Again, you know, that especially those teenage years, it would be, I would call them and just say, you know, they're not talking to me, they don't this, I don't know what they're doing, and they, you know, from the guy perspective, would get, they're guys, you know, they're boys. No, they're not going to talk to you. No, they're not going to tell you what they think. So, yeah, I just found, you know, over the years, different, you know, different difficulties, but reaching out to people and realizing, yeah, there's going to be some stages when you may not have the time, if you, particularly if you have young, for me, I had young kids, you may not have the time to take a walk, but it will come, you know, and then you will have those times where you can have more of your own true personal time. So in
Yeah.
try to, everybody said, I think just find the positives as much as you can and where you can, and just know that, you know, it'll, things work out.
They do. And I know we're kind of doing an overview. So if you're listening and watching, you're going through this and you're like, well, that's nice, right? It's I think it's just important to kind of note, like, everybody's journey is different. It takes time, and like you're saying, you know, it's one little thing that's doing well. When you hang a picture, when you're able to get up in the morning, you know, starting little and kind of growing bigger and bigger and gaining that confidence back over time, and understanding that, you know, we're all going to be able to do well, and it makes you stronger. I mean, like Lee said earlier, I don't think that I would give up what I went through. I mean, right? Would you?
No, no, no. I think you learn from everything. You really have to look and learn from everything and not dwell on it.
And just to, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, there definitely is. I mean, you know, I went through such a dark time and it was so sad, and now I look back on it and this is the happiest time of my life. You know?
It's true. It all connects. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, everything is connected. And I always say, you know, had certain things not happen, I wouldn't be where I am. So we do learn from a lot of things. And I encourage anyone, if you are watching or listening, you can always reach out to me on the Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things Facebook page, or if you know me on Facebook, you can definitely do that. And I'm happy to connect you with these three ladies if you have questions as well. But I want to thank you three for joining us. And we haven't decided our next topic for next month, but we are excited to come back to you next month and talk about something different. But I appreciate you all watching and listening. And Lee, Patty, and Sonja, thank you for sharing your story and your advice. And I look forward to next time with all of you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having us. This was great.
It was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.